and welcome to Gierok Farms. It is that time of year again. Winter is setting in. So we decided to do another video here on how we heat the buildings here on the farm and highlight our wood boiler here, go over our program here when it comes to heating the farm.
We did a video, what is it, 2 years ago?
Yeah, and we get a lot of questions about it.
And that one did quite well, a lot of interest in it. You'll probably just put it up because we're gonna go through a lot of the same stuff. Here, I got a piece of barbed wire. So that was from a log that was probably in the
Fence line somewhere.
Yeah, you know, and we try not to throw anything in with nails in. Like I get, you know, like there's boards from the, you know, the farm, something that got repaired. Because what we do in the winter, like when the road gets icy here, because we got a kind of a steep yard, we use a little of this where the milk truck drives up. We gotta be careful because the coals are hot. I got a steel pail or two. Sometimes I'll put them in there ahead of time, like so they're cooled off. But again, you gotta be kind of thinking because it's kind of like spreading fire on your driveway.
Yeah, and we also put this out in the fields too, so we don't need all that steel out in the fields.
Right. That's either way, you know, it ends up in a tire or something, or in a cow's belly. Yeah. So it doesn't go to waste. And this here, so we must have started firing, I want to think early October. It was probably when it got cold enough to have a little heat in the house, because this heats the water in the house too. The water heater is shut off in the winter. So we're going from October all the way till June till we need air conditioning, or until the wood's completely gone. And if we're already in mid to later May and the wood's gone, we just kind of let it go out and be done. And that, because I can't run the air conditioning with it the way we're set up. It goes through the same plenum, so it's kind of like your heat is in there, and then you're just wasting energy. But anyway, so really the light bill goes down by quite a bit when we and I'm sure a lot of you guys are going to ask, well, how much? It's going to vary because of how much hot water do you need, you know, how much are you using and stuff like that. But anything that heats, it uses a lot of energy, so it is a nice little punch that way. It doesn't go to the milk house yet. I think that would be a great plus, but then again, a lot of plumbing, and you do lose a little heat through the ground. Not very much. I don't think as much as we might think. No matter how well you insulate it, you can still see where the snow is. It does thaw a little bit, but I think if we really figure it all out, it's such a minor amount. It's maybe an extra block of wood or something.
So those of you that aren't familiar with wood boilers like this, the concept basically is there's a water bladder in here, and so you have your firebox down here that heats the water in here, and then you are plumbing water lines to your building to like a furnace where it's going through a radiator, and then it's blowing hot air throughout your house with your central air. Or like in our case, we're also using it to heat the water in the house for the, you know, the hot water heater. It's plumbed through that.
There's some diagram. We'll put up some diagrams. Actually, in here, I think they might have something in here. Sometimes they put the pumps in here. So really, what's happening is well, here they kind of show. I'm just trying to think. Okay, so this would represent heated floor, the way our shop is set up, and the pump that takes that water there. So two of the lines go to the shop and two to the house. So you got four here. So one's coming in, one's going out. And there's valves on them in case you got to do a repair for whatever reason. But anyway, so the shop floor, it's all the same water. So the water that the boiler is in, this boiler is not the same water that we're using to wash or shower with or any of that. That's separate. So what you got is a pipe inside a pipe, which is right here. This darker part alongside this water heater. So this general setup is what we got in the house right now. And then we got one of the larger radiators inside our plenum. So basically our gas furnace, because we do have a gas setup for backup, which we just use very little the way, you know, we've been operating over the years. But anyway, so we're using the same fan. So it basically, so in the thermostat, it says the house needs heat. All it does is just turn our fan on, which pulls the air down through the return vents and shoves it back up through the radiator, which is kind of like your car. So it goes through, and then your air on the top end, which that's what the red arrow represents, warm air, and it circulates through your house until the thermostat says you're good. Then it just shuts. So that's just a fan activated item. So you got a fan, and you got these little pumps, which they use such a minor amount. I think even a light bulb probably uses about the same amount of energy. I don't know, but it's very, very little. Economically, to operate the system, it's very, very economical. Their energy usage is down to nothing.
Yeah, the only downside I see compared to like if you had a little wood stove in like your basement that's radiant heat is that you still need power to run your water and your pump and keep things flowing.
So yeah, if we'd have a power outage. So for instance here on a dairy farm, if we'd have a power outage during the heating months, we would have to get a generator to water cattle, to milk the cows, to cool the milk, which wouldn't have to run 24/7, but it would still have to be running enough, and it would be the same with the boiler. It would run enough to heat the house and the shop and keep something from freezing up. And the other thing of it is, every day, twice a day, practically all day, we're caring for these cattle. We're dressing up to go out in the cold anyway. So far as firing the boiler, to me, taking care of this boiler is like feeding a calf. It's about the same amount of time. It's going to take a little bit, and as far as, like I said, this is the first time now. We've been heating already 2 months. We're late. Well, we're almost December now, so this is the first time I'm going to take ash out, which ain't bad. Again, we just got cold here over the last few days, so now get the ash out. So what happens is the ash builds up. This central boiler, the ash pan, I think it's a 1/4 inch steel, and that's maybe only about this tall, the ash pan. And then you got thinner steel up higher and all the way around, and it's a different shape so it absorbs the heat right. But if it's got too much ash, and ash acts as an insulator, then your fire isn't, heating the steel, which is the water's behind the steel. See, so if we don't clean our ash out, the efficiency goes way down.
And you're losing your capacity in your firebox for more wood.
And then you'll say, okay, where's the heat going? Up the chimney. This is not, as far as the amount of wood you're going to use a lot more wood with something like this versus inside your house, because inside your house now, all the heat that is getting away from the firebox before it gets blowing up in through your plenum is still escaping into your basement or wherever it is inside your house. Then your chimney is in your house, that's warm too, and it all radiates. The downside to me is bringing wood into your house. You can invite in a lot of insects and things. Your wood is out in the cold.
It's dirtier overall, that with the wood in the house, and then some guys say even the soot, if get some of that in your home.
But it is a better heat.
Yeah.
It's if you want to, where you come in from cold and wet, because I grew up that way, firing in the furnace in the basement, and then that heat, and it was night and day. Now this is the next best thing. You wouldn't think. You'd think, because there's no fire in the house. It's just circulating water. And you said it when you moved to your rented home that
it's a dry heat compared to gas. Gas, it's so damp. It's never nice and dry like it is with this system.
On the farm here, again, the wood is endless. We had quite a windstorm here in July. There's down trees all over the place. It's just a given, and it all is going to go to waste unless. And a lot of it has to be cut up. It's on the fences. It's maybe in the fields or just in the woods where it's just going to rot. So we do have the equipment. We have the winch. We have the chainsaws. We have the trailers and the tractors. And to get all this stuff down here isn't a lot extra. And then the pieces, because the firebox is so big, I mean, you could just about throw a wheelbarrow through this hole. It's so big. So the pieces don't have to be cut up so fine. And then if you got pieces where you split them open and the ants are crawling out of it, or if it's maybe partly decayed, maybe on one end of your tree or something, it's no big deal. But you don't want to drag that into your house or your fireplace or something. You want clean wood there.
Yeah, to add to what Dad's trying to say is this really caters to a full cycle here on the farm and fits the program really well, being we're already out in the woods doing things like that, and now we just became that much more efficient and stuff isn't going to waste here on the farm.
And so we cleared out when we did the ditch that Johnny fixed here earlier. That wood is here in this pile.
Yeah, this system kind of keeps everything full circle and
right. And it's a renewable resource. So they'll say, well, and as far as pollution, well, I guess you guys can be your own judge, but something's burning somewhere to heat your home, whether it's electricity or whatever. So it's kind of a win that way. But yeah, a little bit, and I don't know. To me, I think it's a healthy thing to like they say. You get warm more than once by making the wood and all that. Yeah. So this is it's a CL 5648. I can barely see the words on this, and they're stamped in there. That's the model number. of this central boiler. I think this number would be 385 gallons of water. This boiler was new in '04. So what happened is we started with central, so we put our first one in '95. It was a smaller version of this. It was what they called the cyclone draft. And so this one, there's a solenoid in here, and it's basically just a flapper. And a solenoid, when it says that the boiler, so this heats it up to 180 degrees. That water in here, and it's about up to here. And here you got your level, and you might not see that. My water level now is way up there. And then I check maybe, I don't know. I usually check it every day, but that was more when if you had a leak somewhere, you gotta be watching that. But yeah, you want your water to stay above the. So anyway, you got water all the way around, 180 degrees. That's where it shuts off. And so when it drops a few degrees below that, the aquastat says it needs to be warmed up. So it opens the damper, which is a flap underneath this shield that allows air to go in. There's no fan on this one. Some got a fan or a blower or something. You can get them. That's more if you're burning wet wood, or if you just need to get that fire raging more to keep up heating everything. And this one, it works fine like it is. And then of course when it gets it up there 180, it shuts, and that's what the buzzing noise is. It's that solenoid, and then it shuts itself off, and the flap shuts by gravity. So it's a real simple system there. And then here we did have to redo our line underground. So I was beginning to tell you, my first boiler was a smaller version of this, and when we just heated the house, and that was put in '95. And then in '04 we put this bigger one in because we wanted to put the shop into a heated building, which the shop was just a huge machine shed with dirt floor back then. And then we got the heated floor, you know, the concrete's got the tubes in the floor now. And then I think what I did from the original one, must have spliced it under the pad somehow to get to this boiler, because it needed to be longer or something, and then that sprung a leak. And that was I think 3 years ago. And if you look back on that other video, we do got that portage and main. It never got installed because I thought maybe my boiler was leaking, but it wasn't.
No, so it was just a line here.
It just was the line, so we ended up, instead of removing the pad and trying to redo it, because this line actually would come up underneath the side panel there, so that it'll all be out of the way. And I just thought this is probably just a better way to go instead of trying to. And then you got like an inspection hole here. Now this is all stainless. We got an extra 4 feet added to this. I think you get a better draft. The longer your pipe is, it'll draw the air more, kind of like a chimney effect more. And then in here, sometimes a lot of ash will build up in there and stuff, but it's more of a way to you may want to scrape that down. It's never really that bad. And when they talk about like a chimney fire, it doesn't happen very often, but sometimes, especially if I fire up with birch, you know, the bark is like kerosene, and that'll burn right away really quick, kind of like a piece of cardboard. Anyway, you'll see a flame coming out the top, almost. It's almost kind of cool in a way, and it burns your soot out. It ain't like it's attached to your house, and you got more concerns about something getting out of control, heating up and lighting some wood out here. And that's the plus of this. So the insurance companies, they kind of encourage this more if you were going to heat with wood, you know, as far as insuring a home, because, you know, it's just more stuff to, if something goes wrong, you know, it's not in the house or near the house too close.
Back to that portage in Maine. Don't worry, I'm sure we'll see that in action here eventually.
And nothing lasts forever, but you'll ask people, okay, so how long do these boilers last? And nobody has a definite answer. It's how they're treated. One guy said, don't burn garbage in there. I'll burn cardboard boxes and stuff like that, and especially to get stuff lit, or maybe paper sacks. You know, once in a while you got some wrapper from something, but never stuff with plastic in it, or, you know, it's just simple stuff like that. You don't, because over time there's a lot of acids and a lot of stuff in that eventually coats your walls in here and causes acidity to rust her out faster. And then even when you throw your wood in, how you scrape it down. In the summer, I like to leave the door just like cracked just a little bit, so some air, you know, fresh air can flow through it. Otherwise it's like a basement, it's damp, you know. And then I got a steel 5-gallon bucket, and there was a lid for that. I think it ended up getting bent somehow or another where I hit it. So we put a 5-gallon bucket over that. I got to climb up to get it on, but in the fall I just used my fork stick here to poke it off so I can get going. And then this is what they call an open system. And see here, there's a vent. And see that's just on there loose. There's that little pipe on top, and so if you had to add water, which I did, actually it's maybe once a year, some will evaporate. And when we had that leak, it was getting crazy. I was adding some about every third day, and I was getting really scared, and that's kind of why we bought that portage in Maine. I didn't want to get in trouble because things weren't going to just come in overnight. But anyway, you got to watch that water level, and I think we could go a whole year without adding anything. And a lot of it has to do with the quality of your water. They want you to test your water for pH and all that, and then there's additives you can put in, and it really depends on your water, you know, from your well and stuff. And I did at first. I followed the book at fars, and then that product ran out, and it's been 20 years, and I haven't ever added nothing but water. So again, maybe we're lucky we got good water. And all
Yeah, and then another thing to add too with this open system, if like when that flapper was sticking open for us, that allows it to boil over if it gets too hot.
And that's where I would lose my water. So what happened here is this solenoid, I want to think this is my second one maybe. Might be third. They claim you should put penetrating oil on them and stuff. But I mean, it's like a lot of stuff. It's not in the best environment because of the heat and the dust. Aquastat would say it's hot enough, so the buzzing would stop, but the flap would still be stuck open. So at times I got to do that, and then I hear it snap shut. So sometimes I'll get out here in the morning and this thing is just steaming out of the top, and you can hear it boiling. So if you let it do that all day, it would boil your water down. And what you don't want to do is get your water level below that jacket that's in here. You will warp your steel and crack it, you know. Otherwise, it can rage like that forever as long as you kept adding water. That would be the one reason why I had to add water. If it did that overnight and you weren't able to notice it until it boiled some of it out. But it would only be like, you maybe add 10 or 15 gallons or something like that. You wouldn't be adding the whole thing. This is a simple system. Now, they got their closed systems. They're pressurized, and I'm not 100% sure, but I think the heat transfer is better. But I think they're a little more particular that if they spring any kind of leak anywhere in there, you're not going to have pressure. And then they got their they call the gasification stoves. Now that got to be a really big thing for a while there when a lot of emission laws are changing and stuff in certain states and areas. If you were going to want to heat with wood, it uses way less wood, but they're fussy on how you fire them. This here, I can come in here in the evening and say, oh, there's a bunch of wood in there. Oh, just throw 4 or 5 more pieces on top and don't worry about it. The gasification ones, they want you to fill it at a certain time. They want them to burn all the way down, and the wood's got to be very well seasoned, which means, okay, yeah, you'd make your wood in the early spring and first use it in the fall or the year before. I mean, definition of seasoned wood can be a little bit of a gray area. Typically what we do is the wood I would make between now and spring would get used next year. More so. You can burn green wood in these things. It's no fun firing like that because if the fire dies down a little ways, it doesn't take off. You know, if any of you that have been firing wood. So it's always nice. So if we'd had, for instance, a tree or two someplace that was green yet where it broke off, we just brought it in here just because it's nearby and we're heating anyway. We mix it with the dry wood and it's no big deal.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then the other thing is I told this story before. I just started thinking about that. I'm gonna probably want to take these down to like a plowed field because this will burn the grass, you know, or if you threw that out there where there's corn stalks or even some manure that was spread, you know, a while back, that'll start burning that stuff, you know, or leaves or something. So you got to be careful. But when there's snow on the ground, no big deal. And basically I just drive backward with the skid steer and it feather it out. Or if I was going with a load of manure maybe, but again, you know, then the manure spreader gets parked in the shop. I don't like to, you got to be careful with those type of things, you know, because this stuff's hot. Now, the Portage in Maine has got grates, and I like this boiler. I like the general setup, but they need to make some kind of ash pan. And it probably wouldn't have to be anything fancy, just the idea that you can shake down and some of the, instead of here where I got to basically take, if I want to clean this out, I'm taking all the fire out of here. And so some of the bigger coals I'll put on one side. And then what you do is you find yourself some smaller pieces and leave them aside. So you toss that in, and I scoop them coals back up out of here, them hot coals, throw them back on top. It does not lose its heat at all. It's just being smart about the way you keep your fire lit. So shoveling this out is, I guess if we weren't talking here, it's 3-4 minutes, and I Like I said, throw the wood back in, throw your coals on top. By the time I spread this, come back, I might have to throw a couple bigger pieces in and I'm good to go. Back up and running. Yep. And then it seems like the wood usage is way less. You don't know the difference until you actually clean it out, how efficient it really was. But they'll use a lot of wood. We got a big pile here. So our house is a 30 by 58. You know, we heat both stories. The garage and all gets heated. And you know, the wife likes it warm. The shop is a 44 by 80 Quonset there, which you guys seen in a lot of videos, and that gets heated to at least 50 degrees. And we have been known to turn it up if we got projects going there, like when you guys were younger too, I would just crank it up and it will heat it. It'll go through a lot of wood, and that's fine. We got plenty of it, that resource. And now with my sawmill, we're ending up with byproducts from the slabs and all kinds of stuff like that. So we're able to, if nothing else, we could say we cleaned it up and we didn't have to haul it away. We used it to heat the house and the shop. I think I'm just gonna rake some of them aside here, so you don't actually have to take it all out. Now the Portage and Maine, they do have that grate system. I think that is a real be the bigger difference, and they claim it's more efficient, and that comes out of Canada. So you guys want to know specifications, it's the big one. I don't remember what the number is. Like I said, he'll put that other video up that was made, and it was a good illustration. So we did a video roughly like we're doing now here, and then we went down there where it's stored in the shop, and you can see everything I know about that. Yeah, and then you got to be careful you don't, I mean, I heard this happen, and it's a nightmare. Where these coals were right here by this dry wood pile, and, you know, they roll under the wood pile or something if you're kind of sloppy with doing this. Even firing up, sometimes I've had pieces kind of flop out, and if there's really no snow or anything on the ground, you could light your wood pile up. You want your wood close, but not too close. And then what I try to do is keep this area in here free of leaves and whatever might blow into here, just to avoid those type of things. Fire can be a good thing if you keep it in control. Okay, I think we got her.
All right, he took off with the ash. He's spreading it on the field now. We got the fire going in here. I'm gonna wrap up the video here. Like I said, make sure to check out our other videos when it comes to our wood boilers here on the farm, or our making of the firewood, or our sawmill stuff. If that interests you, we have plenty of that stuff here on the channel, so make sure to check out those videos. Leave plenty of comments down below what type of heat you use to heat your house. I'd be interested to hear about it. I've heard about, you know, corn stoves. You know, obviously propane and natural gas are big ones. Let me know what you use to heat your homes. I would love to hear it, or your shops, that too. So thank you all for the support. Remember, check out GierokFarms.com. Get yourself some of that awesome merch. Like, subscribe, share the video with people who you think would enjoy it as well. And we will see you all next time.